Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. We're going to get started here shortly.
I'm just going to, after your commercial, I'm just going to.
Yeah. We're going to get started here shortly.
Hey, this is Laurel, your host of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show, live on KCOHtv-Radio, The Boost in Houston, Texas. And I'm so excited to have you join me on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Central, where we will speak the truth, we'll challenge perspectives, and we'll have a few laughs. Catch the live show on my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page, and my YouTube channel. And you can catch it live on Alexa, the TuneIn app, and the KCOHtv-Radio, The Boost page. And my producer, Jerry B. Beasley, is also on Facebook, broadcasting live. So wherever you are, I'll be there too. Let's do this.
It is Tuesday morning. Y'all, I'm so excited because this show is going to be a little bit different today. I'm just going to ask a question today. And Jerry and I were just talking about it, and it, divine downloads. This is what happens. So we're going to talk about obligation today, like I posted yesterday. Thank you all for being here. Laurel Rutledge, your host of KCOH, your host of, I'm so excited about this conversation. Your host of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show, live here on KCOH-TV-Radio, The Boost, in the historic KCOH radio station at the corner of Wichita and Alameda in the historic 3rd Ward of Houston, Texas. I'm so excited. And by the way, there's a petition going around 3rd Ward. Y'all pay attention. There's a petition going around from the residents of 3rd Ward that are concerned about this historic neighborhood designation. Reach out to Joy Sewing. She's with the Houston Chronicle. Reach out to her, get some information. There is a petition that's circulating because there's just a very few people who've decided they want it. And so what the city does is redraw the map so they can get to 67% so they can designate it historic. Here's the problem with that. On the one hand, because everything has pros and cons. On the one hand, you think, oh, historic, that means people can't just tear it down. They can't build those monstrosities, all that kind of stuff. That's great. Here's the other side of that coin, especially when you're talking about neighborhoods that are older, that have been well established, that people have owned their homes for generations. These aren't necessarily the same neighborhoods that can afford to say, well, you can only put this kind of window in. You can only use this kind of paint. There's some restrictions around having historic designations that can be burdensome to people. And while I love historic homes and I love, to keep the structure and to keep the feel and all of that, the burden of that sometimes is a lot for people. And I get kind of funky with people telling me what I can and cannot do to my house that I'm paying a mortgage on. Okay. But that's just me. That's a whole different conversation. So anyway, think about that. That just popped in my head because we are in the historic 3rd Ward, not in the Museum District. We are in the 3rd Ward. So we're going to talk about voting. I had to order a new vote pen, y'all. I still can't find my other vote pen. I'm devastated, but I got another one and they got it to me on time. So, I can't be here without my vote pen. So if you're 18, time to register. Every day, somebody's got a birthday. Every day, somebody turns 18. Make it your birthday wish to go get registered to vote. The elections in 2022 are significant. Every election is significant. They're really significant in 2022. We've got some craziness going on, and we need people to show up. We need people to show up and vote. We need people to show up and put people in places that are going to stop gerrymandering so that the vote and the voice reflects the people who are voting, that they're not drawing things. Somebody was telling me, I was looking at the map. I think it's somewhere in the Dallas area. They literally redrew the map so it looks like a Z, so that the person in power can stay in power. Stop, y'all. I'm all about, if you win the election, if people come to your side, okay, I just have to get on board and, it's okay. I may not like it, but we're going to be reasonable people. But when you cheat, that doesn't sit well with me. When you have to draw it so that you can maintain it because what was it? Somebody posted, all these people that don't want to be a minority, afraid to be a minority in the country. Why? Because minorities are treated differently. If that wasn't the case, would you be worried? Just a question. So go vote, get registered to vote, take someone with you to get registered to vote. Make sure you're paying attention to what the rules are where you are so that you know for sure what you need to do to make sure that you're registered, and make sure that you have the right ballot, that you go to the right polling place, all that kind of stuff. When your early elections are, it is also convention season. So all the conventions are going on. So we just really need to pay attention. There's a lot of argument and discussion around expansion of the Supreme Court. There's argument and discussion around the abolition of the Electoral College. There's a lot of discussions. And so what I would say is this. I have heard some very interesting arguments lately about things that I thought were settled in my mind and in my spirit. That's why it's called the perspective. Y'all know how I feel about that. How do you know really solid your perspective if you never hear anybody else's? And I've heard some really compelling arguments, for example, about expanding the Supreme Court. I'm not there yet because I think because we're human, and what will happen is the one side expands it, then the next side expands. The next thing you know, we got 4,000 people on the Supreme Court. But the argument I heard was, can we get the court to a number where one departure, one death, one retirement does not swing it so quickly and so heavily that we end up in this political quagmire? Because the reality is the right has been playing this game, this chess, for decades. They have always been focused on the Supreme Court. That's where they've been focused. And everybody else has just been playing checkers, as they say. They've been playing chess, we've been playing checkers. So now we're playing catch up, right? So I'm still not sure I'm convinced about the expansion because I can see that slippery slope, but that argument was a decent argument. That's why it's important for you to pay attention and to listen to people. Even if the position is different than yours, is there some learning you can have in that could expand what you're thinking about or strengthen your argument? And so we really need to think about all of these kind of things. The Electoral College, I don't know. I need to do a little bit more research on that. I do think that there's a problem that we've got states like Wisconsin, Wyoming, Montana, they got two people in them that have the same power as a Texas, a California, a New York. But you can swing that the other way, right? If we swing it too far, that means that the Californians, the Texas, New Yorks are making decisions for everybody else, right? So that's not right either. So how do we, as a nation that's this old, everything needs to be adjusted over time because things change. How do we make adjustments that don't swing the pendulum so far, but really start to reflect a new balance? How do we do that? And there are people much smarter than me that are probably tackling that. We just need them to be vocal. We need them to be visible, right? Because he who controls the narrative controls the minds. We need them to be vocal and visible. And we need reasonable people to be talking and speaking and acting. We need reasonable people. I didn't say people who agree on everything. I said reasonable people, which means all the fringes need to be drowned out by reasonable people. Because right now, all we hear is the fringes. And the reasonable people, we're all tired. We're all tired. And so we need us to not be tired. We need to go take our vitamins and get untired and start speaking up and acting, right? I also want to take a minute because I am tired. I'm really tired. I've not posted about this yet. I know a lot of people have because I haven't. It's just like with George Floyd. It took me a minute to process. And so I want to send up prayers and heartfelt desire for peace and for soul saving for the victims of what happened in Buffalo. Margus D. Morrison, Andre McNeil, Aaron Salter, Pearl Young, Geraldine Talley, Celestine Chansey, I think is what it was, Roberta R. Drew, Haywood Patterson, Catherine Massey, and Ruth Whitfield. That, again, we also saw the person who committed this somehow is still alive and kicking. Now, I don't wish death on anybody, but let's look at the dichotomy of that. Just shot up 10 people, armed in tactical gear, and somehow survived. Yet people who look like me, unarmed, don't. Not only unarmed, but unarmed and not messing with nobody, don't make it. Them's just the facts. And we need to be able to examine that and call this what it is. It is domestic terrorism. We need to be doing the same thing that people were routing out what they felt was radical Islamic stuff after 9/11, right? There was no stone left unturned. And the things that we did to people who we assumed were of that faith, some of those things were treacherous for innocent people. Yet we don't seem to have the same burn in our gut for these folks that are homegrown. It's clearly racially motivated. I'm just saying. Sometimes you got to turn the mirror around and just speak the truth. So vote. Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. For us, today is the 17th. I talked about these last week. Today is the 17th. So all y'all need to get out. Arizona, Tucson, you got a special election. Idaho, you've got a statewide judicial general election. Judgeships matter. Idaho, you got a special a general election statewide. You also have statewide primaries in Idaho. Kentucky, statewide primary. Kentucky. I'm looking at you, Kentucky. Y'all know why I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you, Kentucky. Go get it done. North Carolina, statewide primary. New York, you got a school district general election. Oregon, you've got Senate District 18. You've also got a statewide special primary for District 18. And you've got your general statewide primary. Pennsylvania, you got a couple of special elections statewide for State Senate District 5, and you got your statewide primaries that are happening. South Carolina, you got a special general election for District 97. Those are the things that are happening today. Arizona, Idaho, Kentucky, North Carolina, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina. Virginia, you're up next week on the 21st. Globally, things don't turn up again until the end of the month. So Colombia, you're up on the 29th of May for some special elections happening in Colombia. So everyone around the world, elections keep going. Elections keep going. It doesn't just happen once and then stop. Elections keep going. We still have political things happening around the world. We still have challenges with parliaments, challenges with dictators, challenges with autocracies, which we look like we're about to have. There's challenges around the world. So we need people to really, good morning, Deanna. We need people to show up. We need people to get registered. We need people to vote, please. And I need you to get educated before you vote. I need you to get educated. I'm being careful now about saying do your research, because I did read an article from a researcher who said, I hate it when people say do the research, because research takes a lot of work. It's a lot of time. Now, some of that was just real pompous, right? From someone who's done a lot of research. And words matter. So I want to honor that person by saying we do throw around research a lot. We throw around that word a lot. So now I'm being very conscious to say, I need you to get educated. I need you to get educated about the issues. I need you to get educated about the impact of the issues on you and vote that way. And don't just do what somebody tells you to do. I don't care whether that's family, friends, pastor, priest, whoever. TV, definitely don't just do TV, or social media influencer. I need you to educate yourself on the issues and how they impact you and your family, and then make a conscious decision and vote. Okay. That's what grown folks do. That's what grown folks do. That's part of our problem. We're not acting like adults right now. So we need to turn that around. We can all do it. I know we can do it. All right. So today, I want to dig into this question that I posted yesterday about obligation versus service. And Jerry and I were talking about it because she was saying the same thing, one of her mantras about obligation. And I'm still marinating. Deanna, I know you're marinating too. I'm still marinating on this. And it's this idea of, if you're obligated to do something, is it still service? Is it really being in service if you're obligated? And it hit me because I was in my therapy session. You guys know I'm a believer in therapy, and I have no shame talking about the fact that I've had a therapist forever. And let me tell you something. Going out and doing your own thing, being an entrepreneur after nearly 30 years in corporate, a lot of stuff comes up. So there is no shame. Oh, which reminds me, remember July, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline will have a new number, 988. That will be the new number. That happens July 16th. I'm so excited about that, because there are lots of people who really could use that and use an easier way and a faster way to get some assistance. There was also an article that came up. I'll try to remember to post it, guys. I'm getting really bad at remembering stuff after I leave the studio. I'll try to remember to post it, that gave you some insight into what happens when you call a hotline or a lifeline. So I'll try to post that too. But anyway, so was having this conversation, and I said, some of the things and what I'm trying to do and my calendar and blah, 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 blah. And what came up was, at the end of the day, I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Let's just be honest, right? I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. That's the problem. And when I see a bunch of stuff on my calendar, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And what happens is you end up building like resentment. So you're not doing things because you want to, you're doing things because you feel you have to. And especially in corporate. So for me, it's that I call it the spider web effect, right? When you run into a spider web, you feel the spider web, but you can't see it. And then you feel it for hours, right? And it's so fine and so thin, it might break when you put pressure, but you still feel it, right? It's clingy, it's sticky. And so that trauma, that madness from corporate is sticky. It's like a spider web. And so that obligation piece, for me, I was like, you know what? It's because I remember my calendar being so full where I didn't have any white space in my calendar. And it literally gave me anxiety. I didn't have time to eat. I didn't have time to go to the bathroom. I didn't have time to do nothing. And I spent so much of my time, as many HR people do, we're fighting the battles. We're having the hard conversations. We're trying to get a manager to be a manager. It's just so much. And you can't be everywhere. And everybody's telling you it's your fault. And you're trying to make sure everything works, even though you don't own 98% of the stuff that happens has nothing to do with you. But everybody looks to you to fix it, right? And so you feel this obligation to do stuff because they're telling you have to. But the other side of that is, at least for me, I also felt an obligation to stay on top of things and stay vocal about things because I was going to speak truth to power because we weren't going to lie. We were not going to lie. If we said we were going to do something, that's what we were going to do. And if we changed something, we were going to tell people. And so I felt obligated to be the voice that spoke truth to power, truth to our people, that if it went wrong, we claim that too, right? I just had this real deep-seated need to we just going to say what's real. And I felt obligated to do that. And that obligation created pressure, right? Pressure then created resentment. But does that mean I wasn't serving? Is service only when you give it with a happy heart? I don't know. I mean, when you are doing something for someone else, I guess, regardless of the motive, if you're serving someone, it's still service. You're still impacting, but is the impact of your impact impacted? See how English is crazy? Is the impact of your impact impacted by whether or not you are giving and serving because you want to or because you're obligated? Because obligation equals debt in my mind. I am indebted or I have to. We say, I've got other obligations. I can't do that. I got to take care of my obligations. I mean, we don't necessarily use it positively. I feel obligated to do this. I feel obligated to tell you. I feel obligated to make this happen. I didn't say, you know what? I really think this is a good thing to do and I want to do this. No, I'm obligated to do it, which means, in other words, I don't have a choice. Somewhere, somehow, I feel like I don't have a choice. But is that really the case? Is that really the case?
Well, are you asking?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I told you that I often say my steps are ordered and not obligated.
Yeah.
Meaning that anything that I feel is becoming a burden or gives me anxiety, I don't feel that it's for me to do. I also get social anxiety. Sometimes I can be all excited about the event.
Yes.
The week of who it's going to be in, and the day of, I'll be like, who all going to be there?
Right.
So sometimes it comes and goes. And I think it does with age and finding what really makes you happy and what makes you flow better. I don't want to do stuff that doesn't allow me to flow because then I feel like it's not a service.
Yeah.
I feel begrudgingly doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think and maybe the answer is yes. If it's an obligation, it's not real service. It's action. It's action. You're doing something and you're impacting somehow somebody or something. But is it really service?
But it goes back to your social media that you have a problem with doing social media. You don't like doing social media. But here's the deal, and that's why a lot of people fail at it because they'll look at it and say, okay, I didn't get this result. I didn't get this.
Right.
But somebody can hit you up and say, like they did me yesterday, oh, you just posted something that really blessed me and I needed to go through this. And so maybe you don't feel like doing it. Yeah. But you're led to do it because in some way, this is going to help somebody, even though you don't feel it right then and there.
Jerry, so you just touched on, I think, what the key is. Because I've been thinking about this because, I love words, right? And so obligation brings up these feelings of debt. Deanna says, I tussle back and forth this morning because service is voluntary and obligation feels binding. Exactly. But I think, Jerry, you nailed something, which is mindset, which we talk about, perspective, change of perspective, change of circumstances. Y'all have heard me say that. And so when I think about social media in particular, I didn't want to do it because everybody's doing it. I didn't want to do it because, I don't want to put stuff just to put stuff. You got all these influencers that have done nothing. They're famous for being famous, i.e. Kardashians. They're famous for being famous. I was about to say something so ugly. What impact have they made? I won't say what value have they given, but I did kind of say it, didn't I? What value do they really add? What impact have they really made? What valuable impact have they made on overall society, right? How are they helping? How are they engaged? And not just them. I mean, just in general, influencers who are influencing just to influence. They just want to have, more TikToks so they get more likes and all that kind of stuff. If that's your purpose, what is that? What impact, what positive change is that really making in the world? And so all of that was really, for me, when I thought about social media, that's all I thought about, because that's all you see. That's what first comes up, right? Is all that madness. And then even in LinkedIn, which I almost put in a little different category, even LinkedIn has become, for me, almost toxic, right? So many people reaching out saying, oh, I want to connect. I really want to be a part of your network. And you're like, okay, great. I don't know you, but sure, let's do that. And then you get the, well, buy my thing. And have you ever thought about it? I'm like, you know what? No. And I just block them. Now, if you're honest with me on LinkedIn and say, hey, like I got one this morning. Hey, have you considered this? Does it make sense for us to chat? I am more than happy to say, no, thanks. I'm not interested. If you tell me up front that here's why I want to connect with you because I want to sell you something, then you're making sure that I have a choice whether or not I want to engage with you. Goal is not to have 4 million followers. I don't care. What is to make sure that I am having an impact and whoever needs me can find me. And so I had to change that mindset about being obliged to be on social media to say, if you can't find me, I can't serve. If I am not visible, I cannot be impactful. I can't be effective, right? I can't do the things that I feel I have been put on this earth to do that live in my purpose if I am not available and visible, right? Accessible, which means in this day and age, you got to have some kind of presence on social media. How big or often that is up to you. It's got to be authentic. But so I think you nailed it, Jerry, in that some of it is mindset. Mm-hmm. Some of it is mindset. And you can actually change that mindset depending on what it is.
If you want to. I said to Dominique just today, we went to a little paddle boat and I took it to the paddle boat. And I was going to take it to the zoo, but it was $27 in there.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, there are people who say, you're hard to get in contact with. And I said, not all the time. I'm reserving my energy. There's some things that I know is not going to reciprocate, and I'm going to reserve my energy. And I told Dominique I enjoyed being on the paddle boat with her. Yeah. But 2 years ago, I wouldn't have gone out there with her. And I said, girl, you talk a little, you chatted. My nerves couldn't have taken it. But I said, what was different was I was open to hear you. Yes. I was looking at it as I'm investing my time in a young person who could use some of my wisdom. Yes. And from that, she was so receptive. It made me feel so good and happy that I think that you can change it if you want to. Yes. Because some things are an obligation that I don't feel we have to take on. Right. If you want to and if you're ready. Yeah. We're not always ready. Yeah. Jenny said, you can't help people if you don't talk to them. Right. That's something she always tries to remember. You're right. Because I can just sit in my house and be okay with that. And I in this whole idea of obligation versus service, one of the things that also came up for me was, in the pandemic, I mean, we kept showing up. Jerry and I were here every week, right? Unless there was something going on where we couldn't get here, we were here all throughout the pandemic. And sometimes you convince yourself that what you're doing is everything you could or should be doing. So I was hearing, yep, you're showing up, you're there, you're making it happen. But what I wasn't looking at was, yeah, that's great. But you're also spending a lot of your other time working in your business, not on your business. Right? You're not necessarily getting out and connecting with people and touching people. You're not doing that stuff because your energy's drained and because it was COVID. So I wasn't trying to hang out with folks. But there's a habit that's formed by that, especially for those of us who are introverts and empaths. You get so much energy, people drain your energy so quickly. It is easy to sit back in that comfort of just
just stay home. Don't get engaged, engage with the folks that are in your village, right? The ones that you are comfortable with, but that's not how you really begin to have a bigger impact. You have a bigger impact by making yourself available and accessible to everyone who might need you. And you're not going to do that from your living room or from your home office. Oh, well, it's going to be difficult to do that. If that's all you want to do, then you have to be so active on social media, right? You have to be that person that's constantly live or constantly doing something, because you're not going anywhere. You're not going to shake anybody's hand. You're not going to do any of that. That's just not what you're going to do. And so by going back and evaluating and looking at the perspective differently, it is all obligations, i.e. debts, are not necessarily bad, right? Because even if you think of real debt, real estate debt is good debt. Credit card debt is bad debt, right? Real estate, you actually are building an asset that theoretically appreciates, right? So debt to get that is quote unquote good debt. But that credit card debt that has, 20%, 24%, whatever it is, interest, that's not good debt, right? It's the same thing with obligations. There's some obligations that are good obligations, right? You know what? I have committed to do this thing. I don't love it, but the ability to impact other people is such that it makes sense for me to do this, right? Some obligations are good obligations, but if it's an obligation where you are constantly feeling resentment, I want you to reevaluate. One, is someone else obligating you? And if so, why are you giving them that power? Or are you obligating yourself out of habit, out of those supposed tos? Was Holly, when she was here, said, are you shoulding on yourself, right? You should do that. Although should is a dangerous word. Should, supposed to, have to, need to, those are some dangerous words. Because do you really need it? Like, I need that skirt. Do you really need that skirt? Or do you want that skirt? Words matter, right? So that obligation, is it really obligation, or is it some kind of mental madness you're going through? Maybe you're saying you're obligated to do that because what you really want to do is something else and you're too afraid to do it. Yeah, Deanna says, I agree about mindset. It's key to what feels like service versus what feels like obligation. It really is. And I think it's kind of like, I don't like the phrase like fake it till you make it. I hate doing that because I think you always need to be you. I like to say, just, and I don't even like to say push through, because that's also one of those things that can be negative. But I say, move into something with as much energy as you possibly have until it feels right, or you're very, very clear that it's wrong, right? Don't just fake it till you make it. Because if you're faking it till you make it, to me, that says you're not really invested in it. If you're going to do anything, even if it's not something you want to do, put everything you can into it. So at least you can make a decision next time that, yeah, this just really isn't in my zone of genius, or this really isn't something I want to spend my time on. And then make that conscious decision, as opposed to just kind of sort of doing it and then you never really know. Go on and do it. And then make up your mind.
But also, couldn't that feeling just be temporary? Because there's times that I know that I'm doing service, and I will say, come in here.
Yes.
There's not every morning I just feel so chipper that I just want to just encourage the world. But I come in and I do it. And after I do what I do, I feel good because I know the end game of why I'm doing what I do. So can it be that there will be times you will feel obligated? I don't think you just wake up every morning excited to do service. I agree.
I think because we are human and we got stuff. Yeah. And so, and leaders in particular, especially when you have big teams, right? Or needy teams, you feel obligated to show up all the time, right? And you got to be the one that's calm, and you got to be the one that's focused. You got to be the one that's taking care of everybody else. Caregivers in particular, you feel like you got to always be there. You got to show up. Number one, not so much for caregivers, but when you're one of those people that feel like you got to take care of everybody else. My dad used to always say, even with me and my brother, he's like, I want y'all to take care of each other, love each other, take care of each other. But if one of y'all is going down the wrong path, I need you to love him from afar. Let him go. Right? We hold on to obligation almost out of guilt. And then we hold on to that. We grab that and almost feel some kind of power in our own guilt, power in being put upon. Like it's some kind of badge of honor to say how much stuff we got on our calendar and how busy we are and how, right, that fallacy of busyness being a badge. It's the same thing with obligation. When your calendar is so full, you got to be at everything. You got to run everything. You got to do everything. Really? Because at some point, you not only are you not able to continue that pace, but you're not delivering with 100% to the people who are counting on you, because you have now decided you got to be in everything. You got to be running stuff. You got to be involved in everything. Your name's got to be on everything. You got to be in everything. And what happens is you are maybe 30% in everything, as opposed to being 100% in a few things. Because it's not what we want to do. And we're like, our feelings are hurt if something happens and we're not involved. Mm-hmm. You went and did something. Wait a minute, you didn't ask me. I wasn't at the meeting. What do you mean we made this decision? I wasn't involved in the decision, and our feelings get hurt. So we say we don't want to be obligated. We say we're irritated because we got to be in everything. We say we're upset because folks can't do stuff without us. But do we really mean that? Or do we need that ego stroke for some reason? And I challenge you to really think about that, especially as leaders. Why do you have to be involved in everything? Why do you have to make every decision? Why can't you do a better job of delegation? Is that really because you don't trust your people? If you don't trust your people, why? Because you need to work on that. And if you say, well, it's easier for me to do it, or I know what I want. Well, then a real leader then helps people understand what you want and coaches them and counsels them and guides them and teaches them. Because if you're doing everything, you're not leading, because they're not learning. And guess what? You never get to do anything else, because there's nobody around you, behind you, across from you who can do what you do. And that's ego, and that's fear. So you are not obligated, right? A leader is not obligated to do everything. That's wrong. You're obligated to lead. You're obligated to lift up and train and set a vision and set a mission and set a direction, hold people accountable, including yourself. That's the obligation. But leadership is also about service, right? And those things that you're obligated to do enable you to serve as a true leader. As a true leader. It's such a fascinating question to me, because it's so, it can just be so heavy to feel obligated and to push obligation onto others, right? That indebtedness onto others.
You said it earlier. I think a lot of obligation does come from a spirit of pride, because you said that if you feel that you have to be at every event, that you have to be on every flyer, and it's stuff you don't even want to do, because social media plays a great major part in that. And so I think that, I say for me, for age-wise, I don't have to be invited. I don't have to be at every event. I'm good. I can really be good just watching some fish and chucking some rocks. And good. I want my bills paid. I know when I need to move around. But to feel obligated to do it, I think that even with leadership, that I think our leadership expands to so many different areas. And I think that when it burns out in one area, he will expand. Because if you're a true leader, you're going to be a leader wherever you show up. And I think that sometimes as it becomes more of a obligation, you know, the powers that be, God for me, will lead you into another area of influence to lead, because it's always going to be in you, and you get rewarded for that. I just believe that you'll get rewarded, but not saying that you'll never get tired of doing it. No. We all get tired.
We all get tired. And as you said, you know, leadership is about behavior. It's not about position. You can lead from the back. You can lead without having a position at all. You know, I had this client I was with last week that I love, where I got to see the llamas. Love this client. And what she has built with her team is just incredible. And seeing them, I think when I started working with her, I think they were at 15, 20 people, maybe. She's at over 60 now, even through the pandemic. I mean, she's incredibly talented. But she's got an amazing vision, and she's been able to put, and I told them this, like, she's been able to build this company of unicorns. I mean, they are this incredible combination of highly creative and highly detailed, because they have to be. I mean, it's an architectural design firm, right? They have really long multi-year projects that require that everybody is paying attention to timelines and deadlines and costs and prices and hours. I mean, they have to be very detail oriented, but they also have to have a really great creative process, right? Because the aesthetics matter. That's what they're being paid for. They're being paid to create spaces, right? Where people feel like they have an amazing life. That's what they're hired to do. And so she's been able to bring together this group of people. And so as we talked, one of the things that I encourage them to do, one is leaders, I'm like, I need you to start letting stuff go. I need you to let it go because you're not helping anybody. You're not serving yourself, and you're definitely not serving your people if you don't let stuff go. You don't have to be in everything. The other side of that, though, is in order for a leader to feel comfortable continuing to give you more and let you do more, hey, Mr. Pete, and to let you do more, live radio, gotta say hey to Pete, gotta say hey to Pete, and to let you do more, you've also got to perform. You got to show up. You got to ask questions. You got to be very upfront when there's something you don't know and be willing to learn and listen and figure it out, right? Don't spend so much time figuring it out that you wait up until a deadline and you still don't have it. That's not what I'm saying. You got to be reasonable, right? But that digging in and learning builds trust. Trust is a two-way street. Your leaders have to trust you to be able to push stuff down to you, to know that you got it. You got them covered. You're not going to let them be surprised. You're not going to not perform. And you have got to trust your leaders enough to know that they're going to send you in a right direction, that they're leading you in the right way, right? It is a two-way street. And that obligation piece can sometimes turn into an inability to delegate, an inability to be clear, an inability to set expectations, all of those kind of things, because obligation one is ego fed, but obligation can also make us feel like if we don't do it a certain way, we're not being nice. If we don't do it a certain way, we're not being effective. If we're not doing a certain way, people aren't going to be happy. We talked about happiness. It is no one's job to make you happy. And especially in organizations, when I hear leaders that say, I just want people to be happy, I'm like, whoop, we got a problem. We need to reset that thinking. Because somebody, usually multiple somebodies, are always going to find something to be unhappy about. And if your whole goal is to make people happy, you are going to be turning yourself into a pretzel all the time and doing stupid stuff for the business because somebody's unhappy. Stop that. You don't want people to be happy. You want people to feel valued. You want them to feel like they can contribute. You want them to be able to operate in their zones of excellence. You want them to be able to feel like they can come to work and be themselves and deliver every day. That's what you want. That's contentment, right? That's valued. That's inclusion. That's what that is. That's not happiness, because you're going to do something that's going to make somebody unhappy. A client, a product, a project, benefits, you're going to do something that's going to make somebody unhappy. So don't do that to yourself. You're not trying to make people happy. You are trying to create an environment where people feel safe, psychologically and physically safe, that they feel valued, that they feel that they can learn and grow and develop and contribute. That's what you're trying to create. That's what you're trying to create. So when we think about obligation, manage your obligations. You are not obligated to make people happy.
Yep.
You're just not. And full stop, period. You are not obligated to make people happy. You are obligated, if you are trying to run a successful business, you are obligated to be clear, to make sure you have the right team and the right resources, to deliver on your commitments and your promises, because that's what builds your credibility. That's what builds long-term client service, right? You are obligated to ensure that your service delivers. I just had a great conversation. You're going to hear her next week, because I think that's when I'm going to post her episode. Had a great conversation yesterday with Dr. Alana DeGrassa, and you'll meet her and on my podcast. She's amazing. And we're going to do Fireside as well. She's just incredible. She's in Boston. And, she talks a lot about showing up and showing up confidently and knowing your story and all of these kind of things. And as we were having this conversation yesterday, we were talking about how, this service thing really is about delivering value. And when we talked, Jerry mentioned earlier about, social media and how do we manage social media, and me, telling her earlier, I just hate the social media thing. Because of my perspective and perception of social media, and because there's so much stuff that's just not real And y'all know me, I have this real, almost unreasonable bent for the truth and for accuracy, right? I get unreasonable when there's lies and people, and the people aren't willing to be discerning enough to see that it's a lie. It makes me crazy. I have to manage that, that energy. Anyway, we were having this conversation and we were talking about social media and people delivering and how part of your brand, part of your trustworthiness is delivering. And we were talking about how many people on social media are, here's your 5 steps to build this business. Here's your 7 steps to build this business. Here's how I did this in 2 days. Here's how and even people who say it took me 6 months, but here's what I did. There are so many people who are building their businesses on these commitments that they never meet, but they've already got your money, so they don't care. And they probably have lots of your money and they haven't delivered. I remember going to an event. It was a little online thing. This was probably mid-pandemic. And I was so excited to go to this person because it happened to be a Black woman who was doing this kind of LinkedIn thing. And I couldn't wait to hear her thing. And it was an hour. It was a free, masterclass on LinkedIn and profiles and all that, because I believe you can get a bunch of perspectives and then do what you need to do that reflects you. So I was really excited. I got on this masterclass. 45 minutes of this hour was, here's what my client said about me. Here's how I told my client this. This is what you do. This is how you do. I mean, it was 45 minutes of sales. No value. 45 minutes of sales. And from that, I was like, you know what? When I do my masterclass, which I'm going to talk about in a minute that's coming up. When I do my masterclass, good morning, Dr. Cynthia. When I do my masterclass, when I do my 5-day alignment series, I don't sell. Now, maybe that's on me. Maybe that's a problem, right? But I don't, because I am there to deliver value in that 5-day series. Now, I let people know at the very end, hey, here's how you work with me. Here's the masterclass, right? You can find me on social media. Here's a call to action. Sign up for the masterclass, right? Which is also free. But I don't do hard sell stuff. I just don't. It feels sleazy to me, and it's not who I want to be. I have to figure out a different way to sell to people, right? Because at the end of the day, we do have practicalities. And Dr. Alana and I were talking about that. We all have bills to pay, right? Unless we're independently wealthy. We all have bills to pay. We have things we need to do, and we can still operate in integrity. And the biggest way to be able to build your business is to actually deliver on your promises. To deliver on your promises. The big thing about businesses who have been successful, even if we don't like them, is they have delivered on their promises. Amazon is huge because Amazon delivers, literally and figuratively. Now, underneath that, they've got some issues with copyright. Hey, we got a bus looking in the window. We got folks riding by, y'all. That's the beautiful thing about the corner of Wichita and Alameda in 3rd Ward. We got our Good Morning America Today Show window. But when you're talking about building, right? Building something and really building a business, it's about credibility. It's about leadership. It is about not that obligation led to ego, but leading to ego or leading from ego, but an obligation to serve. If you feel obliged to serve, that supports you in your willingness to understand that it's not about you, it's about the other people. To really be centered in delivering value, right? Because when you deliver value, people are going to come back. They're going to come back. They're going to seek you out. They're going to give referrals. They're going to ask other people. They're going to say, hey, you need to go talk to this woman. You need to go see this woman. You need to go see this guy. You need to read this book. You need to do this thing, because they got value out of it. I was so disappointed in this thing because 45 minutes of hard sell. And then the person said, here's my price. And you know what? If that's too big a cost for you, if you're not willing to make that investment in yourself, then you're just not my people. I was floored. Now, here's the thing. You should charge for the value of your expertise. Notice I didn't say you should charge your value, because nobody can pay you what you're worth. You should charge for the value of your expertise. You should. But to say that someone who is unwilling to invest what you believe your expertise is worth means that they're just not your people. They're just not ready. Perhaps you just didn't deliver the right amount of value. Maybe that's it. Ever thought about that? I mean, I was highly offended. Right? Because I will invest, because sometimes you got to spend money to make money. I will absolutely invest, but I got to see value and I got to see the return. I'm going to do the work, but I got to see that there's really going to be something on the other end. And I've made mistakes. I've made very costly investment mistakes, as we all have, I think, at some point. But if you're going to deliver value for me, I'm absolutely willing to invest with you. But don't tell me that I'm somehow unworthy of your time because I'm unwilling to spend my money. Those two things aren't necessarily connected. It very easily could be that the value you're delivering is not the value that I need at the time. Maybe that's it, right? So that obligation piece, if we feel obliged to do something and that obligation is leading us to serve, that's a whole different thing. That's a whole different thing. We're actually getting the opportunity to deliver value because our focus is on how we can make other people better, help them do what they want to do. We're looking at providing solutions, right? Our obligation is about solutions. Remember, leadership is about solutions. Leadership is about providing solutions. Decision-making is about providing solutions. That's what we get caught up sometimes in making decisions because we're thinking about the decision itself. What we should be thinking about is what do we need to do to provide a solution to the problem that's been presented? Sometimes that's just an act, but sometimes that's a decision. And if we think about it as a solution first, then we don't get caught up in the decision-making process. Little things, right? We're going to do some shout outs here in a minute too. Any questions or comments on your Facebook, Jerry?
Everybody just said hi.
Hi. Hey, everybody. So glad you're here. So I'm so glad I did this show today because I truly have been marinating on this thing and I had no answer yesterday. And now talking with Jerry and talking with you guys, I think it's, it feels clearer that you really can have a sense of obligation and still be in service. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you just show up until it feels right. Like you said, you show up because it's the right thing to do, because you're showing up because you're being in service. Right? Not because you're excited all the time, but because you know the impact that you can make when you show up. So you feel obligated to show up because you know you want to make an impact and you want to serve, right? Your obligation is to serve. So sometimes obligation leads directly to a service mindset. It's when obligation drives resentment that it becomes a problem. When someone is putting upon you an obligation as opposed to you driving your own obligation. Right?
It's like connection. It's like if you met somebody and they force themselves, you're going to be my best friend, you're going to do this. And then you're like, oh my God.
Right. I need you back off me. Right.
And they call you and they text you and they beep you and they message you. And you're just not feeling it.
Yeah.
Because now you're going to be made to feel obligated. Right. We all want something that's natural and that's a flow. But even like I said, even working or doing what you're gifted and called to do doesn't mean you're never going to feel obligated. Right. It's a good obligation, I think.
Absolutely.
That you know that what you do brings value and that you're needed. So you have to show up. Yeah. But you want to, because if it's gone away, because one day I was like, I don't feel like going to the station. Gas is too high. I'm not going. And when the computers went out, I was so frustrated and I was so hurt because I was like, I'm going to have to say I can't do my show. Yeah. But as soon as I got everything back working, I said, God, forgive me. Yes. Because I realized that people are waiting. Yes. And I need to pour out. So sometimes God will check you. Yes. Because what you may think may be an obligation, you just may be drained or tired for that day. You'll get over it.
Yeah. You will get over it. Well, and I think you nailed it too, Jerry, in that if the obligation is purpose driven, doesn't mean you're happy all the time, doesn't mean you're excited all the time, doesn't mean you don't wake up and say, oh, really today? But if it's purpose driven, that's about service, and that ultimately will feel better. Because like you said, those are days when we come in and we're like, oh, but by the end of the show, it's like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I love Tuesday. And every time I have one of those days where I'm like, I don't know, why am I doing this? Doesn't make sense. Is anybody listening? Somebody comes on like the one woman 3 weeks ago who said, you have no idea how much I needed this show. That one statement, I was like, thank you. Cause I walked in that day. I was like, I don't know. I'm going to do my thing because I feel like I feel obligated to do my thing, but hopefully it touches somebody today. It just wasn't feeling like it mattered that day. And that one statement, that one God wink said, girl, keep showing up.
Let me ask you a question. Can I put this
Yes.
for you? Do you feel what you do, even here, let's say it, do
Yeah.
you believe that it brings value? Do you get something out of pouring into people?
You know, I do actually. And you'll hear Dr. Alana say this, and I'm actually probably going to use it as the title. We have to believe that we have value to give. Mm-hmm. We have to believe that. And she said, and this was so powerful, I had to take a minute. She said, you can't charge 5 figures if you don't feel like you are 5 figures. Okay. And I was like, now that's a word, right? You can't charge what you don't feel. You can't do what you don't feel. And I mean deep feeling. I don't mean those days when you're just not feeling it. I mean that deep gut, spirit-led feeling that says, this is where I'm supposed to be. Because I'm telling you guys, this is 5 years. I'm in this 5 years. Every day has not been easy. And there have been many days where I'm like, what the hell? I need to go find somebody who's just going to give me a paycheck. But there have been many days like that. And yet every time that happens, my gut says, but that's not right. You're going to be miserable again. That's not what you want to do. There are enough things. There have been enough God winks. There's enough things that have happened that said, this is where you're supposed to be. You just need to sit in it. You need to keep moving, stay in empowered action, ensure you remain aligned, make sure your vision is clear, because that's usually what happened. The vision gets muddy. The vision gets muddy, and then you go back to habit, right? Whether the habit was painful or not is inconsequential. It's habit. Sometimes it's the enemy we know. We can get comfortable in the discomfort. And so if your obligation is from your gut is saying, no, I need to do this. Jerry and I talked about this one time before. When I'm asked to go do something and I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. I stop and say, do you not want to go because you're just being contrary? Because you just being introverted? Or is there really something in your gut that says, oh, you don't need to be there? If my gut is saying I don't need to be there, I don't go. If I'm just being contrary, I have to change my mindset and say, you know what? Don't go for you. Go because there's somebody who's going to be there. There's something in your gut that says somebody's going to be there that you need to meet because there's some way you can serve them. It's not about you. It's about them. Right? Okay. Shout outs.
But it does become about you only when you are serving somebody. Yes. Because I think about, and we talked about this often, about how you ended up here.
Yeah.
You were here on Adrian's show.
Yes.
On Attorney Ben Hall's show.
I need to call him.
And you and I met.
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, you ought to think about doing a show. All of this is purposeful.
Yes.
But in the midst of pursuing purpose, it will look like it's dry.
It
will. You will often wonder, does anybody hear me?
Yes.
Does anybody see? But then I think that's when the confusion comes in, because if we don't stick to the why of it,
yes,
you're going to always be thrown off by it. I'm looking at this man outside in the bus.
Yes.
I used to work with him at KYOK 1140 radio station in Conroe. And I was driving there for about an hour and a half to get to work and working in the woods and all of that. But I was there for purpose.
Yes.
I just recently, somebody offered me an opportunity at another station, and I didn't take it. The reason why is, you just said it. You can do a job, but are you going to do purpose?
Yes.
Just because you can work corporate, that's a job for you.
Yeah.
But what you're doing now is purpose for you.
It's purpose.
And it's opened the door for you to be in India this morning.
Yeah.
It's opened doors for you to be in the Philippines this morning, in Argentina this morning, in United Kingdoms this morning, in Germany this morning, in Puerto Rico this morning, in Brazil this morning, in France this morning, in Finland this morning.
Hey y'all!
This morning.
Oh, that's a new one.
Yeah, it's a new one.
Yeah,
and it's a new name right there.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And so Johannesburg,
Yay!
Yeah, on there today in Helsinki. Look how many.
All right, Helsinki.
Helsinki, and so many people there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've got New York tuning in today. Raleigh, Durham tuning in. Atlanta, Georgia is in the house. Pittsburgh. Kansas City, Chicago, and Houston than numbers.
I love it. Y'all, thank you so much. I do not take it for granted that y'all show up. I just don't. And I know I say that all the time, but I believe in telling people how much I value your time. And I understand and recognize and am so honored and blessed that you choose to spend it with me, because I know you have a choice. I know you have a choice. And I am so honored that you choose to spend it with me on Tuesday mornings, right? And seeing those of you who are new.
Wait,
yes.
let me, because for some reason on my tablet, I couldn't see these comments. And I said, no, people are speaking.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering why.
Yeah.
Sherry Duff said good morning.
Good morning,
Michelle
Sherry Duff.
Johnson said good morning.
Good morning.
Vera Luss says good morning.
Good morning.
Cynthia J. Hickman says, I'm sorry I'm late, but I'm here.
Yes.
But I just heard you over there on her side.
Right. Hey, Cynthia, right?
Cynthia said serving can open doors.
Yes.
Sherry says, amen, charge for the value of your expertise.
Yes.
That's important.
That's important.
Happiness starts within.
Mm-hmm.
Kathleen. Good morning, Kathleen.
Good morning, Kathleen.
Karen says, good
My middle
morning.
name is Kathleen.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Who knew?
Yes.
Why? Okay, so
Right.
Latasha Davis Johnson says, this is good. Keep showing up.
Yes, I will.
And Cynthia, she wants to drop her city.
Right.
She's in Missouri City.
Hey, Missouri City. Mo City, I'm so glad y'all are here.
My bad. See, that could have thrown me off.
See?
It wasn't showing me there. But look at that, all these people.
All these people there. I'm telling you, but see, live radio, y'all. But we are gonna keep showing up. And I am, thank you for that. I am going to keep showing up. I feel obligated to keep showing up, because if I truly am living into my purpose that I feel led to do, which is to serve, I cannot serve from my home office. Not as effectively, right? I can't serve by just hoping and wishing. I have to show up. I have to be visible. I have to deliver value. And that is my goal. And I won't get it right all the time, but it won't be for lack of effort. It will be for lack of understanding, right? It will be for having failed to pause and listen actively. Like I tell y'all, I'm telling you guys, I have lots of physician heal thyself moments. I have to pause myself. I have to check myself, right? I have to really go back and say, okay, Laurel, is that what you really meant? Were you clear? Was that you or was that them? All the things I tell y'all to do, I know them because I do them and have done them. I know how they work, right? All right.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Going to a different city, because you do a lot of stuff, but
yeah.
And sometimes some of the stuff we can do look like the same stuff.
Yeah.
Well, how about going to various cities like you did and got with that mama?
Yeah.
Did that put a little pep in your step? Because it's another extension of what you do.
You know, so here's what's interesting. You know, we all go through evolutions. And when I look at my business, I was just putting together kind of the vision that I have. And I've done this. I do this all the time. And I had a vision for this. And the vision has not changed. It has gotten more solid. So this whole idea of alignment, vision, action is clear. Everything I do, even the Rutledge perspective, right? All of that, everything that's trademarked, everything that's copyrighted, everything I talk about falls into those categories of being aligned, having a clear vision, and moving into empowered action. Everything. I mean, I went back and looked at every piece of content I've done. Everything falls into those categories. So it's really clear to me that is the thing. Alignment, vision, action. That is the thing for me. When I went to have this facilitation that I did with the South Bay Women's Conference, and then I went to do the workshop with my client in Oregon. I'm getting ready to go do another one with my client in New York. What really came up to me is, because remember, my Monday session with my therapist was like, there's stuff on my calendar I just don't want to do. I don't want to do it, right? What I realized was, you know what? This is the stuff I love to do. I love going to a client and doing that workshop. I love being on retainer to do coaching for the team, because what that enables me to do is really learn their culture and understand how everything that everyone is doing, how it all interacts and intersects. And it keeps me from being obligated to like fix the thing, because I don't have the energy to do that anymore, right? I don't have the energy to be in the corporate with the responsibility to make it happen. I did that for 30 years. I don't have it anymore. I just don't. And I know me well enough to know that I wouldn't be serving someone well to go in and say, oh yeah, I can absolutely be your CHRO again. I can do that. I don't have the energy to do that again. I just don't. And I would be being dishonest with myself to say that, and be dishonest with someone who would want to hire me. But when I sit with my client, when I have people come up and say, oh my God, I so needed this. We are so excited you called us unicorns. Oh my gosh, you really made me feel like I could say this again. People were so excited to see you. Everybody was so anxious to meet you in person. That kind of thing, yes, it's an ego feed, but bigger than that for me is hearing people talk about, my client said, Laurel, there's no one I would trust more with my team. That for me is why I do this, because I am with her team and with her because I want her to be successful. And I see it and I've been there. And sometimes you need an outside person to see what you can't see, because we get buried in the day to day. And so I know that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. I also know that I have an obligation to myself to remain clear and to go back to doing the things that feed me and continue to build my skills so that I can continue to deliver value. I cannot get stagnant. And it's easy when you're tired to become stagnant. It's easy when you allow obligation to breed resentment to become stagnant, right? And I am not serving myself, nor am I able to serve any of you if I become stagnant and become resentful. So I have to stay on my game, and I have to give myself grace that sometimes I'm just not on it. And sometimes those seasons are long. I feel like 2021 into probably about last week, well, till about May, was a season for me. It was a season of clarity, but also a season of, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't know why I'm not on my game. I don't know why. I mean, it was a season of just doing it because I knew I needed to, as opposed to really feeling it every day. And now I feel like I'm kind of coming out of that season. And so we all have seasons. We all have seasons, and I need you to give yourself some grace in those seasons, to sit in your purpose, to go back to how you're aligned, who you are and where you are, Because when I went back, I told you guys, that's one of the things I take people through, right? That whole who you are, where you are, what you want, what it's going to take to get there. And I always start with that foundation. For me, it's faith, family, friends, and health. And that health is the big one, right? Physical, financial, psychological, emotional, all of that. And every time my life is off kilter, one of those things isn't working. One of those four things isn't working. And what I realized as I finally came out of it was the health thing wasn't working. I wasn't doing my water. I wasn't eating as clean as I had been. All these kind of things were just off. And that for me actually impacts everything else, right? I wasn't sleeping well. All of these things. There was other stuff too, but that was a big one. The health thing was off. And so I know that I have an obligation to me to take care of me if I am going to serve you. I got to put my mask on first, and we get one life and one body. And how am I serving and being thankful and grateful and blessed and showing that if I am not taking care of this vessel that I've been given? So,
Laura,
yes.
Earlier today, I read this scripture. This is for you. It's Proverbs 22:29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. And one translation said obscure men. Yes. And when you're diligent in doing what God has told you to do and the purpose that he has given you to do, you will stand before a great audience of people, because so many people need what we have to offer. I'm looking at the people that are online right now. Cynthia said it's a blessing. You're making a difference. She's proud of you. All the contacts and the people that you've met along the way, the clients that you're now working. You had to get uncomfortable in corporate in order to move, because some of us won't move until we're made to be uncomfortable. But I like what you said about you're no good to you to others if you don't take care of you. And this is an obligation that I no longer feel obligated for. I've had people come to me, I need you to help me with my production. I need you to do this. I am saying in this season of my life, I need me. So right. Stuff that I was giving others, I am giving it to my business and to what I need to do. And I've lost a lot of people by that, but that's okay, because there were people I didn't need to have if that was the case. When you begin to take care of your business, because this is your business, as much as we have fun, it's still business. It's business. And you have to make sure you're aligned for that business, because the more you pour out, the more it's going to weigh on you, as you said, an empath, and we feel the pains of others. So you can't be obligated in the given time in areas that are not going to produce for you. So absolutely. And it's so important, I think, for all of you that are listening globally, right? Put your mask on first. Go ahead. It is not selfish to execute self-care. And even if you feel like it's selfish, I'm going to tell you what my friend Holly says. Sometimes you got to be a little selfish in order to be selfless. So take care of you so you can take care of others. The other thing I would say to you is keep doing you. You know, when I went to California, I actually met someone. She had started following me on Instagram. And so we'd had a few conversations on Instagram.
And I literally was in tears. Some of the things that she told me, I was in tears, and I'll share them at a later date when it makes sense. But she was like, when I found out you were coming here, I was so excited. And I'm like, okay. She said, I've been following you. This is who I am. I'm like, oh my God. And it was, you never know who's following you. You never know when you'll have an opportunity to meet them in person, and how impactful, not only that she told me I was to her, but there's something that she told me that blessed me beyond measure. Something I had been visioning, right? And had been praying for and thinking about, and had actually gotten to the point where like, well, maybe it's just not meant to be. Or like with the show, when Jerry said, oh, do a show. I'm like, I don't know. Let me think about it. I had done the same thing with this. And this person came into my life, and it looks like that is actually going to happen. It may be 2023, but it looks like that's going to happen. And so keep showing up, keep doing you, believe in you, right? Believe that you are 5, 6, 7, 10 figures, and then charge that. And that charge may not be monetary, but that charge is in effort. That charge is in your time, because resources, time, energy, and money, right? All three of those are resources. So charge the value of your resources.
Many people have problems with that, because I'm just now really getting a good grasp of it, but a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But help somebody, because there are some people who really don't know what to charge and what their value is.
So here's the thing. Only you can decide what the value is of your time, energy, and resources. Only you. Nobody can tell you what that is. Now, there are market-driven things, right? Like we see what happens with gas, or when there's a shortage of something, right? The capital market means that you charge supply and demand. And there's still some supply and demand no matter what you're doing, whether you've got a product or you've got a service-oriented business. But go back, especially for those of you who have maybe been in corporate before and then are now doing an entrepreneur business, go back and think about what your organization paid for what you're doing. And think about the experience that you have. Think about the battle scars you have. Think about the successes you've had. And more importantly, think about the failures you have had and overcome, and how that has led to deep and proven solutions that are unique to you. That's what you're charging for. I'm not charging for Laurel Rutledge. I'm charging for 30 plus years of experience. I'm charging for the successes and the failures. I'm charging for multiple organizations. I'm charging for multiple countries. I'm charging for languages. I'm charging for all of the investment I made in me that now you don't have to make in you, because I'm giving it to you. That's what you're charging for. And it's not about your personal value. It is about the value of the experience and the value of the outcomes that you can help people attain. Because you're also not responsible for everybody else's outcome. They're responsible for their outcomes. They're responsible for doing the work. What you're delivering is ways in which achievement is more certain. That's what you're delivering. You're delivering a guarantee of different outcomes. You're not guaranteeing the outcomes themselves. You're guaranteeing different outcomes that are more aligned with what the person says they want. Be clear about what you're guaranteeing. Be clear about what you're promising, because you always want to over deliver. Don't be that person on LinkedIn who's going to sell for 45 minutes and then say, well, you just not my people if you don't want to spend my money, or if you don't want to pay my price. Well, you haven't delivered value to me yet. You haven't shown me anything that makes me say that your 5 figures you're charging are worth 5 figures of my resources. Don't be offended when someone's not ready. Don't be offended when someone doesn't see the value. Those really aren't necessarily your people. But it also could be that you haven't demonstrated the value yet. Or it could be they're just not ready. And if you are really, really honest about what you're trying to do, and if you are really honest about being in service, then you meet people where they are. It's one of the reasons that I give value in the stuff that's free to work with me. Because not everybody's in a position to do that kind of investment. But that doesn't mean I can't deliver value to them too. I do that. I find a way to do that. And then I find a way to give a little extra to the folks who are paying, right? Because that's only fair.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the value I'm delivering for free is not valuable.
Come on.
Because it's important that everyone get an opportunity to get clear, to get aligned, and to move into empowered action. I believe that is what I'm put on this earth to do, to help people do that in whatever way possible. And I believe when you're in service, the prosperity comes. You just got to keep moving. You got to keep moving, and you got to ask. So with that said, just want to let you guys know the next quarter, this quarter's alignment series, the 5-day series, starts on June the 1st, because that week that I'd be doing it is actually Memorial Day week. So we're not going to start it on Monday. We're going to start it on that Tuesday. So it'll go Tuesday through Saturday. So you will start seeing ads and sign up, and the little button that says sign up for alignment will go live on Friday the 20th. So you'll see that coming on my website. So the 5-day alignment series, where you get something every day for 5 days, just a question for you to answer yourself. And then I go live for about 30 minutes in the evenings. So that's coming. Also, still on Fireside, Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. Join me. We're going to have some more of this conversation live around obligation versus service, and maybe some other stuff on Fireside. So join me there, firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge to get access. Join me on the stage, get on video, get on audio, whatever makes you feel good. I would love to see some of you guys there, 7 p.m. Central Time on Fireside.
Lady Beulah Davis says she just chimed in.
Good morning.
She chimed in right on time. She needed to hear this information.
Great.
Good information. Thank you.
Good morning.
Cynthia said mental health and business is important.
Yes.
Now, speaking about mental health and business, we go back to this as we get ready to close, but you were saying about influencers, and we're seeing people and how the Kardashians, what did they really influence on?
Right.
And that's not me, Kim.
Right.
You want me to come back.
That's me. I'll own that one. I'll own that one, right? Now, don't get me wrong. You know, Miss Jenner is a boss. She has turned nothing into something. I can't fault her for that.
Come on now.
She
turned a whole.
She turned a whole. That's a whole different conversation. But she is out of this, right? So I can't fault her for that. She took care of her business.
Cynthia says, "Great interview. Now let's go bike riding."
Right. Oh no.
Paddleboarding.
That I might do.
We'll do that, Cynthia. Paddleboard, because that's my thing now. I enjoy doing that.
Right.
It's fun. It's good exercise.
It is good
but
exercise.
Listen, you said earlier today, we were talking about the social media influencers,
yes.
right?
Yes.
I consider you and I and Cynthia J. Hickman that tuned in today, and Tasha Johnson. We're now social media influencers, even though Meta hasn't caught on to it and panned us, because many people now are gardening.
Yes.
Because of our posting. So do you suggest that sometimes show a way to your mental health?
Yes.
Show a way to your peace. What is a way that you're finding that you're doing more of?
Yes. I mean, you have to, again, the one of the challenges with social media is we see everybody's highlight reel. You don't see the behind the scenes. And so I try to make a concerted effort to just be real, right? And you will see me showing up a little bit more, because again, as I said earlier, I had to be honest with myself. I've been working a lot in my business and not on my business, and not connecting as much as I really wanted to, within reason that my spirit allows me to do, right? And so part of that is showing up a little bit more. But the gardening thing for me, getting outside, feeling the sun, seeing things grow is just amazing. This is year number 2. I think year number 3 may be my year for cucumbers, because they still don't seem to be able to make it this year, although the plants are beautiful. So, but it has been something that is one piece for me. It has also been fodder, right? For content, right? It has been a place for content, just going through that gardening, some things that I've seen, some things that I've felt, some things that have happened. And y'all are going to see that. I'm going to hold that until it's time, but y'all are going to see that coming through in a whole different way. But that has been such peace giving for me to do that, even though, Jerry P. Beasley guilted me into doing a garden. She did. She shamed me into doing it. And I still had to do it the way I could do it. I'm not digging in the dirt. I have stand up planters. I am not getting on my knees in the grass, y'all. That's not happening. And bugs and all that. Honey, stand up planters are the way to go. I'm telling you. And I can still do it. And I still have my little gloves, and I go out and clip things, and I spray stuff. I need to go fertilize today. I'm doing the thing. I just had to do it the way that worked for me.
So you're going to tell the people that you're going to paddle boat too?
I just am going to consider paddle boating. I'm going to consider paddle boating. Because I got to watch Jerry P. Beasley, because I may get on a paddle boat and she decide to tip it over or something to laugh.
No. Everybody get their own. I told little Dominique, I'm not riding with nobody, because if you flip over.
Right?
So no, everybody got their own little paddle boat. We're going to do something. But I think it's good because, as she said, mental health and business is important.
Yes,
that when
it is.
You're running your business, you also need to take a moment, at least 30 minutes to an hour a day, to do something to decompress, because if not,
you have to. My therapist always says there's a rule that says you should have at least 1 hour a day at least one day a week and at least 1 week a quarter where you do nothing but focus on you, right? And when I get really tired and really busy and I go back and look at that, I'm not doing that. Because even when I stop working, right, I'm not necessarily taking that time to really just be. I'm doing laundry or I'm cooking or I'm if I sit and just be, my brain is still going and I feel guilty because I'm just sitting, right? You need to have that time to just meditate, to just sit in silence, or to do something that feeds you for at least an hour a day, right? Even if that's during lunchtime, go read a book, go outside, go get some sun, go something. And remind yourself, for those of you who are working at home or working for yourself or combination thereof, I'll get up and start working at 6. Man, I didn't get enough stuff done. And at 6 o'clock and I still got stuff. There was like, that's a 12-hour day, right? I'm like, oh yeah, that was 12 hours, but it doesn't feel like it, right? So give yourself some grace. So show the same compassion to yourself that you show to others. Remember that part of your service is serving you, because when you serve you, then you can show up for everybody else.
Cynthia, Laurel said we'll make it happen the Tuesday after Memorial Day, so be prepared to come here. And after this, after her show, we'll go paddle boating. It's a done deal. She's agreed to it, and it'll happen. And then we Facebook.
Y'all see how Jerry is speaking for me?
Well, you need it. You're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna be like, gee, I never knew this could be so great. It's fun. But another thing before we go, you did something. Speaking of that, you posted something, and I was about to check on it, but then my phone rang. I got on, but it just reminded me. The bok choy, what is it called?
Bok choy, yes.
Yeah, because I went to the store to look for that. Then I said, I'd rather have cabbage because I don't know nothing about this.
It's cabbage. Yes, okay. It's an Asian cabbage. So it's little small cabbages. It's excellent.
Post more of that, because I said that actually looked that.
Yeah, it was good. I did that. I did regular cabbage too. I did okra and tomatoes. I did some of everything.
So
I'm telling you, I'm on it.
Cabbage.
Yes, it's cabbage. It's Asian cabbage. Yeah.
Well, see, you influenced somebody, because I sure did go to HEB yesterday.
See?
Like, what is bok choy? I don't know. Give me some cabbage.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that they would have.
Yes, I mean, it has a little bit like sweeter flavor than regular cabbage. It's good. It's really good. So yeah, y'all go get some bok choy. Go toast it up. I stir fried mine because I saw this woman. She's called Angie. It's Angela Eats. She's on Instagram. She just cracked me up. She somehow showed up in my feed. I never knew who I still don't really know her. But she showed up in my feed accidentally. And so she does a lot of stuff, and she does a lot of air frying. And she actually just came out, I think just released her first cookbook, air fryer cookbook. And anyway, she did this bok choy with some bacon. And I was like, oh, I think I need to try that, because I'm a bok choy girl. And it was excellent. So I just did the little bacon, cut it up so it was little pieces, and then did that. And then in that same skillet, just cut up the bok choy. I did mine in 4 sections. I cut it in quarters. Depending on how big or small they are, you might be able to do halves. Make sure you really wash them good, because it's cabbage, right? So dirt gets down in the leaves and stuff. So that's the other reason I cut mine, because I want to make sure to get all the dirt out. And then just saute them in there. And it was excellent. That was it. Just bacon.
Well, I was influenced. I'm like, that's healthy. That was good. I would try that. That
I'm telling you, it's excellent. 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 All right, y'all. Love it. Love Tuesday. You made my day on Tuesday. I'm going to go back and do some stuff I got to get done at my house on my business today. And I was on a podcast. You guys will see that coming up. It was a guy who has Go Heroes, a veteran site. And so I was really excited to do that. So I'll post that. So hopefully go listen to that. Go support them, please, because they have an excellent podcast. Please go support them. Look out for the sign up for the alignment. And then the masterclass will come after that. And I'll keep y'all posted on everything going on Rutledge Perspective. See you on Fireside. Take care. Bye. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Dr. Cynthia. Thank you, everybody on Jerry's page.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. Let me see. Cynthia.